Disco is actually my favourite genre of music.
When have you ever go out disco dancing?
Well, not much these days.
You're a prolific disco dancer. Welcome. We are Neil,
Luke,
And Dave.
340-somethings, reminiscing on the runners and riders of 90s guitar music.
we look at the bands who soundtracked our youth on both sides of the pond and interview some of our heroes from the bands that defined a generation.
You'll hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly of 90s guitar music.
This podcast is Stupid and Contagious. Hello, welcome to episode 14 of the Stupid and Contagious podcast. Today we're going to be talking to Louis from Rialto. Just Luke solo again this week. Stepped in because, as you can hear, I'm a little bit poorly. So,
How are you feeling?
yeah, not great, you know.
Poor little lamb.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. But yeah, so Luke had to solo the interview again this week, but he done a sterling job as usual. So we'll have a listen to that a little bit later. Oh, before that, someone on our TikTok. Yeah, we have got TikTok. We are down with the kids.
I don't think I knew that, but yeah, okay.
Well, there you go.
Also did.
We've got
I did. Yeah.
Scott Anderson, he confirms that your Martine McCutcheon story is correct. But he said it was in a limo, not
Oh,
backstage
okay.
at Never. So
The important bit was correct.
yeah. So there we go.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I was right. Martine McCutcheon puked on Mick Hucknall's dreads.
She did him a favour. They look shit, didn't they?
It was time, wasn't it? It was time.
Yeah. Bit like
Yeah.
Michael Bolton. You can't sustain that forever, can you?
Or Toadfish Rebecca.
Exactly. Well, and us. We couldn't sustain
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
bouffants
Yeah.
We didn't
forever.
have mullets,
Yeah.
though.
No, we had
No.
long hair, though.
Or Pat Sharp.
He's still got his, hasn't he?
No, Pat Sharp cut his off.
I think some
Yeah.
people have power in their hair, don't they? I think Michael Bolton, I don't think he's done anything since he got his hair cut.
Yeah. Metallica went downhill after that, eh?
What have you been listening to this week, Dave? Been
Apart
to
from
any
the
more
opera.
operas?
Rialto. No more operas.
No.
The Christmas music's has come on this week.
Already?
Yeah.
God. Okay.
I mean,
For
it wasn't
example,
becoming more acceptable.
The usuals, you know.
This is an interesting one. I thought this last year. You can't play that Gary Glitter one anymore, can you?
what's Gary Glitter's Christmas song?
Another rock and roll Christmas.
Sing it. I don't know it.
Rock
Christmas,
and
rock and
Christmas.
roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
It was
I was going to call him
big.
Gary Shitter, but I don't want to give him a fun name because he's a fucking pedo.
Yeah. But you know, that song will never get played again probably. It used to be like one of the go-to Christmas songs.
I think it's a casualty I can live with.
Yeah, I can, but just thought it was interesting. It's not that interesting really.
Speaking of Christmas songs, have you seen those photos of Shane MacGowan that have been out this week of him coming out of hospital?
Always a bit sad though, Shane MacGowan thing.
What happened to him?
I guess a lifetime of drinking. He doesn't look great.
Well, he was on the mend, wasn't he? Because he's had all his teeth redone, and I think he was trying to sort of sort his life out.
I don't know if he's got any other bigger diseases. I'm not sure, but he doesn't look great.
I remember it's quite sad actually. I remember me and my mate went to see him. He was just doing like a album signing at Glastonbury in 2004, I think it was. He was just sitting there. He didn't know what was going on, and he was just sort of forced to do it. He didn't really want to be there. It was just quite sad, really. It's one of those, isn't it? He's a musical genius, but he's tortured, isn't he?
I'm not sure I'd describe him that way, but yeah.
Tortured soul.
Tortured soul. Yeah, musical genius.
That's what
That's
I
the
mean.
part I'm disagreeing with. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so let's get on to Rialto. Luke, do you want to do a little bit of a thing?
I guess, first of all, categorization. I'm going to go for expansive indie rock.
Obviously, I've got my Wikipedia thing, and I can use Neil McCormack's description. So Neil McCormack noted that Rialto were among the most critically acclaimed and highly touted new groups to emerge of the late 1990s, making carefully crafted beatless pop with an epic cinematic sound and slightly sinister lyrics.
I like that. That's pretty good. Yeah, kind of that cinematic sound is it's part of it. Formed in 1997 in London, out of the ashes of a band called Kinky Machine, who we spent quite a lot of time talking about in the interview, actually.
Yeah,
they were go on.
Interestingly, this is the great thing about this podcast for me, is I find new old music. I'd never really heard any Kinky Machine. I heard the name. I had a good listen to the Kinky Machine stuff, and it's great.
It's really good, eh?
Yeah, that album.
Bent.
Fried Egg.
Yeah, Bent.
Bent.
Yeah, the one with the fried eggs on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great album. Really, really good. Yeah. And I don't know if you'll probably tell me to fuck off, but I sort of heard tinges of These Animal Men sort of thing.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. Yeah, I got These Animal Men vibe in there. Yeah. Yeah,
very much so. I thought, really good band in their own right.
So they were kind of like a pre-Britpop band, kind of more guitar, more rocky, straight ahead, like Neil said. I hear a bit of These Animal Men in there. They played on The Word. They were, fairly, getting themselves established. They had, he talks about in the interview, Elastica and Supergrass supported them on their way up, right? So they were, medium-sized band. They had 2 albums, self-titled one, and they had one called Bent. And good kind of pre-Britpop band, basically.
Toured with the Manics, didn't they? And Wonderstuff, and
yeah.
Bigger band than I'd realised, but yeah.
Same. They finished, and then Rialto formed, in 97. Debut album came out in 98, just called Rialto. And as you'll hear in the interview, just before the label, just before the album was released, the label decided to drop them for unfathomable reasons. They managed to get another deal. They had an EP, Girl on the Train, and a second album after that. They were a 6-piece at the beginning. 2 members left before the second album. Second album, Night on Earth. I hear a lot. It's kind of a lot more kind of electronic-y and dancey. The second album.
I've got that written here as well. It's a great album, though. Again, I'd never heard that album before. I'd heard the other album loads, but I'd never really listened to that album. But it's really good. One of those sort of forgotten albums, unfortunately. Don't forget it. Go and have a listen.
Yeah. And they were dropped by their label again. They were dropped twice.
That's a really unfortunate story. It's in the interview.
Yeah.
But massive in South Korea.
Yes. And other kind of Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore. Yeah.
The album went to #1 in South Korea. And it
really?
Knocked off.
Okay.
It knocked off Celine Dion's My Heart Will Go On album.
Oh, really? I didn't get that detail. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
To dwell on that, how do you explain it? I mean, is it just random?
I don't know how bands become big in other countries. I don't know how the whole media machine works in that respect.
It's usually like if they get a track on a TV show or something like that, like a local TV show or something. That's happened a few times over here in Japan, where kind of like an overseas band have kind of latched onto that kind of thing. Yeah, he didn't know either, right? So that was it, basically. They broke up early 2000s. Louis did quite a bit of stuff after that. So he had a solo album, The Long Way Round, in 2004, which I had to listen to. It's pretty nice, kind of acousticy, nice little album. He had a band, Louis Eliot and the Embers as well, which again, kind of a bit more kind of a folky kind of thing going on. It's pretty good. And for the past, as he said, the past 13 years, he's been the guitarist for Grace Jones's touring band. Well, one of the guitarists for Grace Jones's touring band, which was totally out of left field, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The whole interview is really interesting, actually. I really enjoyed this one. I was just going to say a bit about Rialto. So the first album, brilliant album, really, really good. I remember at the time I loved that album. And I remember at the time thinking, these guys should be bigger than they are. And I think they should have been, right? It was just unfortunate. I kind of see them as a little bit of a mixture between sort of Pulp and Oasis. Do you know what I mean?
Pulp and Oasis. I don't know, Dave. What do you reckon to that comparison?
Well, I like the Pulp comparison because I was thinking about that. Not so much the sound, but it's more the kind of songs, the lyrics. A lot of sort of story songs. I've only listened to the Rialto album, and the Fried Egg album before, but there are other albums.
I like it. What do you reckon? Give your Dave's opinion.
Usually I don't bother listening to them many times, but I've played that over several times.
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I thought you'd like it because it's a good album, really good album.
It's accessible. Yeah, as I say, they managed to have kind of credibility along with accessibility, right? And they did it really well.
I'm less surprised now because you find out in the interview, but why they weren't huge. They had all the ingredients to be a huge band.
Well, just to finish off the story, so after 20 years, they announced this April that they were going to be reforming, and they had their first ever gig for 20 odd years. So the four kind of members that were left, and that was at Shine On, just a week and a half ago, which Neil was at.
I was there. Really good. This first time I'd seen them, I didn't see them in their heyday. They're fucking great. They still look cool as fuck. It didn't really look that old. Well, as you see in the interview, Louis doesn't really look that old.
Good-looking guy, yeah.
Yeah. So they still look cool as fuck. They're still wearing suits and got the style. Yeah, I love the whole show that they put on there. And their new songs, he mentions it because he makes a joke of it in the interview about, no one really likes to listen to the band's new songs, but one of the new songs that they played was one of the standout songs for me. It was a brilliant song. Something about a discotheque. I always like songs that have the word discotheque in. It might have been disco, but discotheque. It's one of those songs.
Always going to be good.
Yeah. It was fucking brilliant, though.
What's your favourite song that mentions discos?
What's that song that goes, "We've got you crying at the discotheque"? What's yours?
I'll go for it's only a brief mention, but I'll go for "Secret Vampires" by Biss.
Okay, you love Biss, right?
I do like Biss. So they mentioned discos in there, which is great, and that's a great song, "Secret Vampires."
Yeah, I can't find mine, but I think I know the song I mean, but I can't really remember who it's by or anything.
Dave, favourite song that mentions disco? Not a disco song, but a song that mentions discos.
What's that one, "Crying at the Discotheque"? It wasn't Alcazar, was it?
Well, I saw that as well, but I don't think it is that
one. Sophie Ellis-Bextor?
No, it's not that one either. I do like Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
Disco is actually my favourite genre of music. I like disco music and dancing to it. And
dancing to it.
Nile
disco
Rodgers is a massive hero.
When have you ever go out disco dancing?
Well, not much these days.
When did you?
You're a prolific disco dancer. Was it like every Friday you'd get on your 70s gear and go down a local discotheque?
No, I haven't done that, but I would do it.
Can you show us a few moves?
No, I mean, I can't do like disco dancing.
Saturday Night Fever.
Nah, I'd like to be able to do it, but I can't.
Right, should we have a listen to this week's interview?
Yeah.
Here's Louis.
Louis?
I've been saying Louis the whole thing. Been saying his name wrong for the whole of this half of the episode, but here's Louis from Rialto. Enjoy.
Thanks so much for coming on. I guess, first of all, congratulations on the big reunion show last weekend.
Thanks very much. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, Neil was raving about it afterwards. I mean, how did it feel to be back on stage again after all those years?
It felt really good to be playing those songs again. We'd we'd done a few rehearsals, so I wanted it to be great. We didn't actually do like a warm-up gig, which maybe we should have done. We didn't do like a pub gig or anything like that. So, there was a little bit of nerves, but I felt pretty confident that we were prepared, and it was just really nice to see all the people in the room and people kind of singing back at us, and so it couldn't have kind of been nicer, actually.
Yeah. I mean, why did you choose to do it at Shine On?
Well, they've been asking for a few years, and honestly, they've been asking for a few years. They offered some money. They were promoting it. It just felt like, well, actually, that's kind of something. It would be fun to do, and that's a nice way to back in. Basically, we knew we'd be playing to a good amount of people, that we wouldn't have to. I like the. I think Shine On's a fantastic festival, and I think that it fills this space that no other festivals I know of do, which is one thing doing it in November, but you get to stay in a chalet in Butlins or whatever.
Yeah.
That's fun. So that's fun for a start. And then we've also got the fact that it's a sort of a genre, a kind of indie music genre festival. I don't know if there are really other ones, that are quite so much like that. And there's a bit of a focus on some sort of 90s stuff, and obviously that's when we popped up. So yeah, it just felt good. It felt good. And they were nice to deal with. And it just felt like a fun thing to do. And also, actually, we had other mates on the bill, and that felt like a laugh as well.
Like who? Who are you still mates with?
Well, mates with I've known Miles from the Wonderstuff forever. Sleeper we toured with. Linoleum. Very, I mean, Tim from Republica. It was quite weird. We arrived there. It was actually dark by the time we got there, and we arrived at one part of Butlins that was quite quiet, and it was dark, and it was winter, and I felt like I was in an episode of Scooby Doo. It was like this sort of you expected the sort of somebody to come out and we'd pull a mask off. Anyway, but then then I went into the sort of reception bit and immediately bumped into a mate of mine, Tim, who's in Republica and was in.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast a little while ago. Lovely guy. Yeah.
He's great, and he was in, as you'll know, he was in Flowered Up as well.
Yeah.
And they've just, there's a film that's recently been made about their fantastic Weekender video, and so yeah, it was just immediately kind of nice to feel like there were some old pals, and actually, it's a very friendly festival. So there was the vibe there is really nice.
Yeah. How did the set go down in the room?
Great, it went really well, and we slipped in. We actually slipped in 2 new songs, and the first one I thought, I'm not going to mention it because I mean, whenever I go and see a band that hasn't played for a while, when they mention the new song, you can hear the sort of collective groan in the audience. Like,
yeah.
Really? Not what we come for. This sort of disappointment everybody's expecting. Anyway, we slipped one in. Actually, it went down really well. So I thought, okay, I'm going to let them know we've got another new one, and that went down an absolute treat as well. So it was, it was a great crowd, and yeah, it was a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, has it given you an appetite to keep it going and do more?
I came off stage just thinking, right, I want to do more now. Right, what's next? Come, I wanted to write a song. I wanted to write a song. When are we playing next? So we're revved up, actually. We're revved up.
Brilliant.
And we are about to announce. We're about to announce a London. I'm not even allowed to say it's London. We're about to announce a show for January. Am I allowed to say that? I don't know.
When are you going to announce it? I was going to ask about that later, but let's talk about it now. When are you going to announce?
today. I bet it might even be today. I've forgotten.
Okay, well, this will be out on Friday, so if that's the case, then
when this comes out, it will be. What I do know is that the tickets will be on general release on Friday. So yeah, anybody who's interested,
that's perfect then.
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, just very excited. The band was, we've all been playing. It's not like I think it's harder sometimes for some bands that have put their instruments down and gone and done other things. But we've all been on. We're all, everybody in the band is still a musician, and yeah.
Is it right you were touring with Grace Jones? Is that right?
I've been doing that for 13 years now. Yeah,
Wow,
I do all her life.
How's that?
Well, I was as speechless as you when I got the gig. I was just like, yeah. It's great. It's absolutely brilliant. Grace is amazing, and I got the gig, and I was.
Did you have to like audition, and how did that come about?
I was 2 days rehearsal and then off to Australia for gigs. That was 13 years ago.
Wow.
It came about through, as these things often do, it came about through a couple of different things happening at the right time, or over a period of time. Basically, I was in a band very when I was like 19 or something. I was in a band in London briefly, very briefly. A couple of guys who were in that band are in Grace's band. This was, but also that's the more fun story is I was at my cousin was getting married, and he's a music guy. He does he's in a band and he makes film music and stuff. And he's in a quite successful band, and he was
can I ask the band?
He's in 9 Inch Nails, and
reasonably successful, you
yeah.
could say. I mean,
and so it's all nepotism. This, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. Basically, what happened was I was at his wedding. I was in the wedding band. I mean, this was actually prior to him being in 9 Inch Nails, or so, but he did know Grace, and Grace's producer. And I knew Grace's producer just socially. And look, I'm not. I'm giving it all away. Basically, I was in the wedding band, and along with his brother and a couple of other music makers who've been in bands and stuff, and we were just doing covers as you do at a friend's wedding. But we had a couple of people who were going to get up and sing a song. It was all quite low key and everything, but Grace was there, and she. We were going to do Pull Up to the Bumper. We had somebody else who was going to sing it, but Grace got up.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, this is the most fun I've ever had playing the guitar.
Yeah.
It was in a tent. Everybody was jumping. I was going, this is easy as well. And I was just beaming. I was just like, this is fantastic. So afterwards, I said to Ivor, who's Grace's producer, and Grace, if you ever need a guitar player, I would love to do it. And at this point, Grace actually was in a bit of a quiet. She hadn't had a record out for 15 years or something. I think she was doing mainly. She hadn't had her resurgence, which happened around 2010 or something. She'd had a few years kind of, I don't know what she was up to, but anyway, it was around that time that this happened. A few years later, they needed a guitar player, and I guess they remembered that. They remembered I'd been in a band with Malcolm and Donny, and that was it. I got the call, and
brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They've just been touring the world and all that shit, and just good stuff. Oh mate, yeah, it's great.
And having mainly been front person in bands, I played guitar for people a bit, but it was actually fantastic to then, Rialto was sort of over. And I had other projects going on, but
Mm.
to do something where I was just playing guitar for somebody who's an absolute star, and it's a nice feeling just to feel like you know what they require, hopefully, and you're just there backing them up. And I really enjoy that. With Grace, she's an incredible artist and front person, and it's just really great to be in that band supporting her.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. All right. Can we take it right back before Rialto to Kinky Machine? I mean, can you tell us a bit about that band?
Yeah, we just what can I tell you? Like most people, I was sort of knocking around trying to, get the right band together. I know some bands kind of meet when they're 12, and there's very few of them, I think, and then they just do it for 10 years, and then finally they get a deal and they have some. With me, I was knocking around trying to be in this band or that, trying to do this or that, and changed quite quickly. And it was one of those things where I think I had a sense of the, like, probably like a lot of people's reasons for starting bands is you're kind of doing something that you feel like it isn't around at that time. And I was probably interested in, I don't know, there just seemed to be a less interest in bands of a sort of from a certain sort of tradition of things, whether it be the Kinks or the Jam or the Clash, or it's at that time, it was pre what became known as Britpop.
So like
There'd been
93, we're talking 93,
Yeah, it was
94?
probably I was a bit earlier actually when it got together and got signed and everything. I think it was 1991.
Oh,
Um,
that early. Okay.
yeah, and so 91, I think it was. So yeah, it was just a I suppose we had a sense of a kind of style of music we wanted to do it. Actually, yeah, and
Yeah.
um,
To me, it sounds pretty, not like super Britpop, but like, again, maybe you were just, do you think you're a couple of years ahead of Britpop in that kind of sound?
I think I think along with some other bands around that time, there was a band called 530. There were various
Oh, I
bands that
love 530. Yeah. Yeah.
fantastic, and I think that we're all slightly tapping into this thing that, had it happened 2 or 3 years later, we might have caught that wave in the way that some other bands did. As it was,
Mm.
we sort of, in a way, Rialto and Kinky Machine sort of became kind of were either side of the real sort of explosive moment of
Sure.
Britpop.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were both sides of it, and you know, I mean, it's not really a term that I like, but I suppose it does, it somehow encapsulates this idea that we were actually unafraid of tapping into things that were, it was almost a bit sort of postmodern, and like it was okay to listen to pop records that,
Yeah.
you know growing up, really becoming aware of contemporary music in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, which I did.
Mm.
I That period to me was a really golden thing, and
Like,
that
what
was
kind of bands are we talking?
the Specials, Madness, the Beat, all of that sort of two-tone stuff was the
Yeah.
first temporary thing that I really got into as a kid. But whether it be Joe Jackson or Elvis Costello, I think there was an amazing moment, and at that period. Maybe it's just because how old I was then, but it felt like, even when it went on to things like Human League, or there were these great um, groups that sort of weren't manufactured but came up with these, great
Mm.
songs and a look and a great kind of attitude and a great Dexies or whatever, all
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
kind of vision and a great sort of aesthetic and everything that they really worked out, and that was really appealing. And I think that was some of the influence on Kinky Machine, along with some 60s stuff as well, you know, and 70s stuff. I suppose it was, in a way, I suppose it was just a reaction. The other thing was it was a reaction to the 80s, to the late 80s, which had
I
just
was gonna
felt.
say, I think I'm a few years younger, so I got the late 80s, like, Stock Aitken and Waterman version of the 80s, right? You got the cool early 80s version of it, you know?
Well, that later part was the sort of slightly bloated and slightly, well, not just Stock Aitken, but the
Totally.
sort of, you know, you just imagine there was a lot of money around. There's probably a lot of cocaine. There was probably a lot of sort of
Yeah.
sort of drive, um, and that was unappealing. That was unappealing. I can listen back now to some stuff from
Mm,
there that I hated. Go, okay, I get that. I do get
mm,
that.
mm.
Um, the other thing is, I think it's all about. Um, I heard somebody else use this term the other day. Actually, it's like the wheel of cool, and it's like context is everything. You know, it's
I
like
like that, the wheel of cool, go on.
it's like, and you know, it's so I think Kinky Machine was a reaction to the sort of the norm
Mhm.
as I saw it at that
Mm, mm,
time,
mm.
and trying to be on and going back to the wheel of cool, for instance, you know, there
Yeah.
are things that I can hear from the late 80s that I thought were awful at the time because of the wider context. Now somehow
Mm.
I
So it
kind of,
turns around and it's cool again. Yeah, 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 it becomes
yeah,
cool.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah. What kind of bands were you touring with and hanging out with, at that stage?
And when Kinky Machine
Yeah.
started, the Wonderstuff took us on tour. That was
Oh,
amazing.
brilliant.
That was really incredible of them and good of them. And just like, I think Miles came to a gig and was like, "Come on." So we went and did some big shows with them very early on. Um, who else did we play with? God, it's going back so far. We played with um, Manic Street Preachers. We went on tour
I
with.
saw them last weekend
What was it?
here in Tokyo, yeah, with Suede. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realise you were in Tokyo. Wow,
Yeah, I'm in Tokyo. Sorry, sorry. Yeah, 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 yeah.
amazing! Right, wow, with Suede, fantastic. Was
That
that a
was
great
incredible.
show?
That was brilliant. Both
Yeah,
bands were just top of their game. Brilliant, brilliant.
wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. That I can imagine they're both sort of this bit of healthy competition probably going on the tour of like,
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, yeah. I think they're taking the same tour to the UK next year, but they're doing it in Asia first. So yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah. So yeah, we did all that. We did those sort of shows, and then we did some smaller bands, and then we started taking bands. You know, we should have been. I should have been an A&R man really, because the band was doing okay, but actually I had a real ear for spotting whether it be Supergrass or Alaska, or we kind of
Oh wow. So they were supporting you.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
you knew with certain bands, like I thought we were good, you know, but you knew with certain bands, you're like, okay, but
yeah,
there might be some news now, but I knew I'd be like, it's not going to be long before we're asking for support
yeah.
there.
And I saw you played on The Word as well. We had Terry Christin on the podcast a while back. I mean, how was it to go on there?
It was it was great. Yeah, it was quite nerve wracking. Excuse me, I just got something in my throat. um, hmm, yeah, it was really exciting. It was live TV,
Yeah.
and so there were no retakes, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting that to me at the time, and I don't know if there's a lot of that now that goes on. You know, I guess, you know, even Jules Holland's recorded The Word. I think it went out live. If it didn't, you certainly didn't get lots of goes to have another pop at your tape.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. I watched I watched it on YouTube a couple of days ago. It's a great performance. It's really good.
I mean, you know, we were full of adrenaline and excitement, and this is our, you know, it is a build up. You know, um when it's, you know, I decided aged about, I got into music aged like 9 or 10 or something, and started playing the guitar. And by the time I was 14, I had a sort of trajectory that I sort of
Oh
mapped
wow.
out. head,
Mhm.
which made me sort of ignore other things, a lot of other things.
So
Growing
so did
up,
you feel like you kind of made it when you were, like, on the Word? Did it feel like, "Well, this is it"?
I just felt like, okay, we're this is what I've been working towards. I've managed to do these things that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to art college and start a band, and and get a deal by the time I was 24. I had this sort of vision when I was, like I say, 14, and so doing things like the Word was great. It was like, okay, this is these are dreams coming true. I
Mhm.
think there was also, being that age, there was also, I mean, within that band, there was quite a lot of tension, um, and there was probably some fear and sort of anxiety in at times. I don't think I don't think that probably came across in the Word performance, because we were just like, let's have it.
Yeah.
But I think around that time, I was probably a combination of bravado and excitement, and also a bit of fear. Like suddenly you've got all this stuff and you're actually being exposed, and how are
Yeah.
people gonna
Gotta deliver the
react?
goods. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But no, it was a yeah. I've seen it not so long ago. Somebody pointed to me to that video of the Word performance, and it's quite enthusiastic, energetic
Yeah,
sort
it's
of pop.
brilliant, it's brilliant. Alright, let's finally get on to Rialto. Sorry, I'm, uh, uh, going off on tangents. So after the, Kinky Machine, so you kind of formed, Rialto. It's not a massively different sound, but it's enough of a difference, right, to not even realize they're the same band. I mean, was it a conscious decision to change the sound that you wanted to make?
Yeah, it was, and I think it was a I think Kinky Machine was a sort of, despite the actual demos that I made prior to the band getting signed, um, which had a broader warm sound. We ended up being quite a sort of rocky guitar band.
Yeah.
Um, and and because we gigged a lot, and we were a good guitar band, um, but it did feel like a bit of a creative straitjacket, I think. And we went off. We so when we started Rialto, which was actually me and Johnny from Kinky Machine, the guitar player, and I was writing the songs, as I'd always done in Kinky Machine, but Johnny was doing production, and we the label gave us some, by today's standards, pretty kind of basic kind of equipment, like an 8-track, I think. Then we went up
Mm.
to a 16-track, reel to reel. Just in his flat, we had a sampler, a couple of, a bass, and we it was just like, okay, we can do something broader with a bigger palette, and tap into things that it was just more ambitious and more and exciting to be able to do things where we could really um uh, let influences, whether it be John Barry or Brian Wilson, or
Mm.
you know all kinds of things, just to make a more of an interesting production, I guess, rather than a
When
guitar
you say
band.
John Barry, that kind of cinematic, kind of widescreen sound really comes across, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That was a big, and in fact, John Barry. I was reading a book at the time, John Barry's biography, and he'd sort of there was a nice little um, coincidence. We'd named the band Rialto because somebody we were doing the demos, and I remember meeting somebody, and she was like, "What sort of music's the band? What's the band's music? This new band of
Mm.
yours?" And I was like, so hard to describe the music. I was like, well, it would sound great if it was like we did a gig in like an old dilapidated theatre, sort of torn up red velvet seats or something. She was like, oh, like the Rialto in Streatham or wherever it was. And I was like, yeah, that's it. So that was the genesis of the name of the band. And I was
Great.
reading a book around that time as well. John Barry had grown up in a Rialto cinema. His dad was the manager of it, and that's where he
Oh,
got the
wow.
this desire to write film music was from growing up in with his dad managing the cinema. And so, yeah, John Barry was an influence, and there was a whole, for me, a kind of connection with all that sort of
That's
that sort of
great.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, did it take off pretty quickly? Did you start to have hits straight away?
These things are always a bit slower than they probably look from the outside. And it's going back a while, so again, I can't remember. I think we were still making the album when we first. I think the first video we hadn't actually fully decided on the name, so we must have been mixing the album at that time. I seem to remember actually we were mixing and
Oh, wow.
getting part of the video back, because we've been very lucky in that we weren't signed. We were actually signed as Kinky Machine. Having
Oh,
had
you
a
just
couple
stayed on the same contract?
Well, what happened was we were on one. We went through various contracts with Kinky Machine. We thought we were about to get dropped, but because of this sort of explosion of bands that became known as this movement, Britpop, that label actually wanted us to carry on. They came in the last minute. Were like, you know what, we've set up this new label, and we'd really like to re-sign you. And I was like, we had a big debt to them and everything, and we'd already been offered another deal by another label. And I was like, in a way, for Kinky Machine, it might have been good to stay on that label, and we would have made another record and capitalized on our sort of on the work we'd done. But instead, we went to this other label, did one single as Kinky Machine. We didn't have a manager or anything at that point. We were out on tour in Europe.
Is this East West that we're talking about? Yeah.
We signed to them, and it was really, incredible that this A&R man, really lovely guy called Ian Stanley, really liked the band and believed in us and signed us, but we didn't have all the other stuff around us that was required, mainly a manager, actually, to make sure happening at the label. So we went off on tour, went off with Elastica in Europe, and single came out, I think, whilst we were away. Bombed, nothing happened because nobody worked it. And he just said, look, maybe he'd had this plan all along, but he was like, look, why don't you just ditch Kinky Machine? I want to give you some equipment. I just want to see, just go away for a year, 18 months, just do something. Do what you want to do, So it was an incredibly luxurious, lucky position where it was like, where we had a deal, so we were being looked after, equipment, and so we went and made these demos that were quite kind of new. So when it came to going into the studio proper to make the record, we were very we had it all mapped out, really.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess it wasn't long after that we had a single out, and that got some interest straight away, and we seemed to it just seemed to pick up quite quickly and nicely.
Yeah, it's great. But then can you tell us what happened when you were just about to release the album then? So after all of that support and 18 months of, hey guys, take your time.
Well, unfortunately, that guy, Stanley, brilliant guy, was ousted from the label. Whatever happened, I don't know. And I think for bands these days, there's you can self-release some stuff. There, you kind of had to have, generally speaking, I think you really needed a label to do to have the mechanism to put a record out.
Yeah.
So we were dropped. We had 3, hits in the UK.
So what? Well, I mean, why? What the fuck?
Well,
why?
Spoke to the guy, and everybody had the same reaction, really. At the label as well, everyone was like, what the fuck? I mean, we were doing well, and everybody, all the other new bands on that label weren't doing as well. We were considered to be the sort of hopes, and we were proving we could do it. We got on with everybody at the label. It was all cool. It all looked great, But a new boss came in, and just my only regret is that I never got in a room with him just to have that conversation and say, what's this about, you know? And he might have just gone, I just not into it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he dropped us just before the album, and I think even some of the reviews were out. So it was quite a weird move because they pressed up the record and everything. It was ready to go, and it was.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
the brutality, Matt. Like since starting this podcast, we had a couple of similar. Like, we spoke to Compulsion; they had like a similar story of exactly the same thing. The records have been pressed, and I just don't understand it. I mean, it's just like the brutality of the mid-90s record industry.
It was brutal, and I think you know, I'm sure there's some egos going on. It's a new boss coming in, going, well, I'm gonna, you know, I'm. But it did seem, you know, I looking back, it's comical, but I can also see it's almost a bit not quite vindictive, but it's quite an odd thing to do because they'd already spent the money. So actually,
Right.
to just do that last thing wasn't going to cost them much or anything. But they were just like, nah. So then we had to find another deal to actually sort of license that record to, because I think they held on some, I can't remember the boring stuff, but as well as dropping us, I don't think we were free to just totally walk away with it as our own. I can't really remember. Anyway,
Oh, right.
it took about 6 months to get another deal.
You've lost some momentum, right? Yeah.
But you know, we were lucky enough to get signed again, put the record out. It did pretty well still, you know, very well in other parts of the world. But I think our momentum, it definitely had a knock on effect.
How about the relations within the band? Did it have any effect on that?
I think it was cool. I think we were riding when we got dropped. We didn't go into a sort of deep depression about it or anything like that. And we were already. It wasn't like our first rodeo, so we'd all sort of had the corners knocked off us a bit already by being in various situations before, I guess. But we also just probably thought, well, we'll get another deal. The band's good. People like it. You know, great reviews, charting records, singles going in the charts, blah blah blah. So anyway, I don't think it really took its toll immediately on the band. I think it did later because what happened was we were dropped by that label. We were dropped by East West. We were signed by China. China was then bought by East West. So
I didn't know that. Okay. Huh.
So by that time it was a bit like, okay, this is sort of funny. But it was definitely having that definitely had an effect. So then what happened was we made a second album, but because we were back on this label that they shelved the record, and eventually we managed to get out of that. Well, they dropped us again, and we eventually managed to find, you know, to license it. But by this time, the momentum and the and there wasn't, you know, the difference is now with Spotify and streaming services is that you're still there, I guess, and I don't know, I guess without that, the machine that used to be required, you really were just you know, you were easily sidelined or whatever the word is. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just it was a nail in the coffin for the band, really.
Yeah. It's sad, right? Yeah.
It's sort of sad, but it's quite funny, really. And you know,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's
happening twice is reasonably funny.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask about, like the late 90s, especially, it was like the age of the kind of the, what do you call it? The multi-format single release. I've been reading Graham Coxon's book this week, and he was saying that, like, for Blur, they would have to come up with, just for like a single release, they'd have to come up with like 10 or 11 songs to go across like the 2 CDs and the whatever, the 7-inch 1 and 2. did you have that kind of that seems hadn't even occurred to me before, but that's insane, right?
It was a bit insane, and I think that I don't, that the obviously the purpose of doing that was to sell more
Right.
items,
Yeah.
good for the label, but also there was a that affected your chart position because fans would want to buy various versions of the single
Yeah.
because there's different
I
things on
did.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think it had an effect, probably a bit of an effect on the quality, but it certainly had an effect on the pressure on,
I was gonna
there's a lot,
say, yeah.
particularly if you're busy, you're touring, trying to do this and that, trying to squeeze in, you know, this other creative stuff. Um, so yeah, it was quite full on. Yeah, it was quite full on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah, I guess the precious thing, right? If you suddenly got to come up with some extra tracks, it's out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a lot. There was a lot required, expected, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, which kind of leads me on to, I mean, anything that you read about Rialto mentions the fact you're the first band to release an internet only
Yeah.
single, I guess. How did that come about? That's a pretty cool thing to have on your biography, right?
Mm. I'm not going to pretend that I had a massive amount to do with that. This came up and it was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, yeah." You know, uh, I I should take more credit for it maybe, but uh, no, it felt like it obviously it was a new, it was a kind of forward-looking,
Mm,
and it seemed like an exciting, um, thing to do, and I guess there was, um people wanting to just see how this new
yeah. So just to
kind of
make clear, it
came.
wasn't it
Well,
wasn't digital. It was you could only it was a physical thing, but you could only buy it online, right?
that's
That's
right, yeah. So in a way, it was an old-fashioned idea, and it was also a new idea because you had to go online to buy it. You couldn't, but it was a physical thing. It wasn't streamed. It was a physical thing, and it wasn't actually allowed to chart, because the sales of that kind of thing weren't
they
registered at
weren't
that point.
didn't exist then, right? Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, somebody approached us about it, and it seemed like an exciting thing to do. And
Yeah. But I don't know. It is quite a risk, though. I mean, if no one that had ever done it said this is not going to be in any shops whatsoever, that's a risk to take, you know.
yeah, yeah, I guess it was. I guess it was. But yeah, that was the name of the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. It's cool. It's cool. It's great. Other thing I wanted to talk about, kept you quite a long time already. I won't be too much longer. I apologize. As I said before, I live in Japan, and I'm always kind of skeptical of claims that certain bands are big in Japan. They're not. The only bands that are big in Japan are Japanese bands, right? But you do seem to have a pretty big following in South Korea and Malaysia and Indonesia and Singapore. I was kind of looking back at old like forums and stuff, and all of the messages are from those kind of places, which I think that's so cool. I mean, how did it come about?
God knows. And it was, and I think, yeah, at the time it was like, oh, get one of in Japan. Like you talk to other bands, they'd be like, yeah, we went to Japan, incredible. And you're thinking, oh, I bet the Japanese would like us. They didn't really go for it in Japan in the same way that they did in South Korea, Indonesia, like you say.
Mhm.
And it was quite a surreal thing just to be told that you were, going to be going to South Korea, and um, that the record was flying there, and then get there and there's kind of fans at the airport and all this sort of
Beatlemania.
stuff that it's amazing, like, um, yeah, it was amusing, brilliant. It was heart, everything.
Yeah.
It was fantastic in every way. It was just a lot
Mm,
of fun. That's all I can say. Really, it was just fantastic, and
mm.
I'm really, it's so nice that there are still, you know, through Instagram and so on, we realised how much support and love there is still for the band.
Oh yeah, completely. Even for like, you know, I'm like a total indie snob. For even like people like me and the kind of forums I hang out in, people love Rialto. Yeah,
Oh, that's
they seem to have this kind of credibility with like the indie snobs like me, but also you know, they sold records, right? It's
right.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, great. I mean, you know, I think we we tried to set our own bar quite high with
yeah,
Rialto when we, you know, having been in a band before that didn't, you know, we really felt like, look, if we're gonna, we wanted to, we went at it with the attitude of like, we're going to make something really good. There's only you know, that's our bit done. The rest of it, there's a whole lot of luck, and it turns out the luck, we had a lot of luck, and we had some shit luck, and that was the way it is, you know. But
yeah,
we felt all along that we've made something good here, and I think it still stands up, and I really do, you know, I genuinely think that,
yeah.
um, and so I guess maybe some people see that as well and think, yeah, no, this is a good record, you know. Um,
Yeah. 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 And it seems genuine. Again, I think that, like you said it before about being like out of time, I think that makes it somehow, it makes it kind of more authentic and more genuine. You weren't jumping on the bandwagon. You weren't trying to copy. You were the ones that were, you know, were doing it your own way, whatever was happening. I think that comes across as well, you know.
well, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I,
not a question. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, I'm
Uh,
saying that.
do you have a favorite or kind of most meaningful to you Rialto song?
Um, mm, 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 mm. I'm I don't I was I don't really. I think there were some moments that, you know, I can remember some moments. I can remember hearing like being in a, I think we were in like a service station for on a tour and hearing Untouchable in the, you know, across the tannoy or whatever, and just thinking, this is great. We're really, you know, or you get the traffic lights or whatever, and somebody's window is down, and your record was on the radio. That those moments were
Yeah.
were pretty great, you know.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
but actually, as favourite songs, I don't know. I just tried to everyone. I just tried to make it as good or better than the last, you know. I think so, you know, summer's over. So summer's over. I'm quite. No, I don't know what to say. Don't know what to say.
That's all
I
right, that's
like
all right, that's all right.
I'm revisiting them actually. It's been fun, you know, doing them in the rehearsal room and playing them the other day. Um, songs that, you know, there's a song called London Crawling, which has been
Mm.
really fun. I didn't really enjoy playing somehow live when we did it first time around, but you know, that's not a bad tune.
Yeah, it's great. You mentioned that you played 2 new tracks, at the gig last weekend. Is there anything you can tell us about new material or new albums or anything like that? Any exclusives you can give us?
Um, I can't say too much right now, but I would love to. Certainly, we're certainly thinking about putting some new stuff out. Um, yeah, certainly thinking about it,
The
and
tracks
it went down so
that you
well.
did live, have you recorded them?
Maybe, yeah.
All right, no, it's all right, you don't have to say anything. It's all right.
Um, I think they went down so well that I think I'm quite, yeah, I'm quite enthusiastic about that idea. You know, it's a
Yeah,
funny point at the moment where we've done this show, we're about to announce another one.
yeah,
I think if it feels like people are interested in the band, um, then why not? You know, it'd be fun
yeah,
to do.
yeah. And any chance of a
Maybe
wider I
some
mean,
show.
if there are any listeners that are tuning in, especially from South Korea or Indonesia, any plans to get out there?
Um, Plans, maybe not. Dreams, definitely. You know, I
Sure,
would love to.
sure.
We'd all love to. But there's nothing kind of written down yet. But you know, definitely love to do that.
Sure. Any chance of, I guess this is maybe a personal question, any chance for me, any chance of a vinyl reissue of the albums?
Again, it has been talked about.
Mm.
Got to get on the case a bit more with that. I think it'd
Yeah,
be great.
yeah.
Be good to do that.
Yeah, it'd be great. All right, last question. We ask basically every band member we interview same question. Which other band from that era would you have liked to have been in, and why?
Been in. Wow. Um, been in. I don't know. Been in. I mean, I saw some I saw some bands I liked around then, but you know, um, I like Black Box Recorder. They were great. I liked,
Mm.
uh, um, but no, I was in my dream band really. I
Sure,
was in,
sure.
uh, yeah, yeah. Um, you'll have to come back to me on that one.
That's fair. That's fair. And just lastly, then, so what's the best way for people to keep up to date with what's happening, and any more announcements if they come? What's the best place to keep up with what's going on?
To go is our website, which is Rialto Music. I think that's it. Yeah,
Possibly. I was on it
Rialto,
earlier. It's something like that. Yeah.
Rialto Music. Please go to that. And also we're on Instagram, Rialto Official, and I think on Facebook. Well, no, on Facebook we're Rialto Music. And yeah, it would be great if anybody's interested to go onto the website and sign up. We won't bombard those people with stuff, but we will update them with occasional bits of genuine news about what we're up to and what we'd like to do, what we've got planned. So yeah, there'll be a ticket link on that as well. So yeah, we're on Instagram, Rialto Official. We're on Facebook, Rialto Music, and there's a website, Rialto Music. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we'll put links in the show notes so any people can just click on it straight away if they're listening to this. So yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun chatting.
So there we go. Louis from Rialto. Good interview. Well done, Luke. I found
Cheers.
that one really interesting.
Yeah, it was really good.
I thought he was like a really kind of thoughtful, interesting, kind of like analytical guy, just
Yeah, I agree.
really enjoyed it.
I think it came across that he's always been quite sort of driven in what he wants to do. I think he still is. I think he's still got plans for Rialto. He achieved a lot in a short amount of time. Kinky Machine released 2 albums, Rialto 2, and I think a third was on the way in a sort of 10-year period. I think it's nice that when he was talking about Shine On, they gig back at Shine On, I thought it was nice how he sort of said how they're all sort of still pals from back in. So it's just like meeting old friends. I think that's really nice, to have that community. And I think Shine On is a bit like that. It's just all bands from back in the day all getting together and having a good time.
Yeah, that came across. Yeah, that is cool, right? Yeah, especially these bands you toured with like 20 years ago or longer, 25 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't look that old, does he? He's still looks young.
Dave, what are your takeaways?
He's considered everything he said carefully, and he didn't want to give away anything he shouldn't give away.
I think I coaxed a little bit out of him.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah,
some good stuff. I like the. I guess we can talk about the Grace Jones thing, how that came about. It's very interesting.
So
Yeah.
His cousin is fucking
He's in
Trent
Nine Inch
Reznor,
Nails.
right? What he must be
No.
Trent
Oh, it
Reznor.
is
He said
Trent
he says he does film music.
Fuck off. Maybe it is. They do look similar.
There is a resemblance, right? Maybe it's just the hair. But he said he does film music, so it must be.
Grace Jones doesn't just turn up at anyone's wedding. Do you know what I mean?
True.
Yeah, I think he's just still really into music, right? And I think, like he said in the interview, it's just nice just sort of play guitar for someone and not being too invested in the music, but just playing for the fun of it, right?
I'll be interesting to see how that changes their new music, right? So, if you've been playing as a professional guitarist for the last 13 years, you're gonna be really, really good, right? So, also the kind of music that like Grace Jones has is very different from indie rock. So, I wonder he's got to be like a much better like musician now, right? So, I wonder if that's going to kind of feed into the new tracks. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, look forward to. I hope they release some new stuff because he wasn't 100% sure, was he, on that? I'm sure it'll come. Yeah, we need to hear some that disco song.
I've got some info. I just asked ChatGPT, is Trent Reznor married? When did he get married?
Yeah.
And he got married October 17th, 2009.
That's about right from the story.
Timeline adds up.
9% sure now, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shitballs.
Why did you say that?
It was warranted.
I guess it was. I guess it was.
Just came out.
Yeah, no, man. Don't apologise, man. It's good. It's good. Other point is, well, again, we've talked about it a few times now, but just the brutality of the 90s music industry, especially like the mid to late 90s, right?
But it just seems ridiculous thing to do. Pay for someone to make an album and then not bother releasing it.
Internal company politics, right?
But yeah, it seemed to happen a lot in those days, right? Like with the whole compulsion thing. Both those bands I could have seen as being huge bands, huge sounding bands, right? And both suffered from the same sort of fate.
But they both definitely had commercial appeal that you would have thought would have been enough to satisfy the record company. But
do you think, thinking about why they didn't smash it like some other bands? And I don't want to insult Louis because he's very nice, but could it be they didn't have that really loud person like Liam Gallagher or
I see what you're saying. Like,
okay,
just a normal nice guy and maybe not annoying enough.
I mean, he had the look. I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, it did come across a little bit. He mentioned a couple of times in an interview about being nervous in this situation. He said he was nervous when they went on the Word, nervous at the reunion. So yeah, maybe he didn't have that kind of that arrogance that you need to, that kind of confidence and arrogance that you needed to succeed in the 90s, maybe, right? Yeah, like you say, Liam Gallagher. I think like Damon out of Blur's probably got the same kind of thing going on, right?
Maybe he's just too much of a nice guy. I don't know. When we're talking about his influences and stuff, I like that he was sort of heavily influenced by ska and bands like that, the early 80s sort of specials, and because I love that sort of music as well.
Loads of people like specials, don't they? They're really influential.
Yeah, well, they're great.
Yeah, and it gave me an excuse to put them on the playlist this week, so that made me very happy. What about the point that I was putting to him that people? So he's like 6 or 7 years older than us, right? So they grew up with like the early 80s where pop music was still kind of cool, So all those bands, like he mentioned, like Human League, but other bands like ABC, Thompson Twins, Simple Minds, a lot of them, they kind of came out of like the post-punk, and some of them even came out of like the squatter, like anarchist kind of scene going on, all those kind of 80s pop bands. And by the time it got to when we were like 10 or 11 and listening to charts like that, we had like he said, like the coked up, bloated fucking pop of
plop
basically of late 80s. And there's a big difference. Just that 5 years was a big difference, between cool pop and like shite pop,
Yeah, I mean, now you come to mention it, the pop of the early 80s was better, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it come out of that tradition, right? It come out of more underground stuff, and then it turned to plop in the late 80s, like you say.
But then you had Madonna and Wacko, didn't you?
Stock Aitken and Waterman was solely responsible. Well, not solely. There's 3 of them responsible for that whole thing.
I mean, all their songs, 3 chords, 4/4 rhythm, crap lyrics.
If you watch interviews with Pete Waterman, he's very open about it. They were just trying to make like nonsense music for the masses that just appealed to everyone and no one at the same time.
Rick Astley fans are going to hate me now.
Well, Rick Astley fell out with him, didn't he? So
he's managed to reinvent himself, hasn't he, old Rick?
Rick Astley, he never really wanted to go down that plop route, I don't think, but he was kind of forced to.
Did you invent plop, Neil, or is that a common term?
Plop's a word, isn't it? And I've just sort of tied it in with the late 80s pop music. So I guess so.
I think it's a good descriptor. Maybe we can have a game. Should we have a game? Pop or plop? Each of us has to name a band, a pop band, and you have to choose pop or plop.
Let's do 90s. Let's try pop or plop in the 90s.
Okay, I'll go. New Kids on the Block.
Plop.
I'm going to say plop. I think they're pop now, but I think they were plop.
Dave, your turn.
Spice Girls.
Oh, pop.
Pop, yeah, definitely pop.
Are you going plop?
They had a couple of songs I like, but most of it was utter crap.
Let's say plop.
You have to say plop.
There's no point in saying crap when playing pop or plop.
Well, we'll agree to disagree. I think Spice Girls were great.
Yeah, no, and the film's brilliant too.
We went to the cinema to watch the Spice Girls the movie, didn't we?
We might have done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's really sort of Britpop, that film, isn't it? It's got everything in it. It's got all the cameos and stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's like a Hard Day's Night, right? It's a great British comedy
really
music
good.
film. It's great.
Better than A Hard Day's Night. I'll give it that.
It's good. A Hard Day's Night. It's good.
Pop or plop, Let Loose.
Definitely pop.
I haven't heard of them.
Let Loose. Crazy for You. Crazy for you.
And there's nothing that I won't do.
I'm
Dave?
caught by the look in your eye.
And it's all for the love of you. Is it not ringing any bells?
Pop or plop?
It's not, I haven't got it yet.
I guess you know.
It's pop for me.
Yeah, definitely a pop.
Love that tune. Based on your evidence of our version, what do you give it, Dave?
Plop.
I think we've digressed a little bit.
Is that the end of Pop or Plop?
For this week's instalment of Pop or Plop.
Can I just give a quick shout out to my mum, because this reminds me of a game she invented called Dead or Dane.
Nice one, Joyce.
So Kinky Machine, they were signed, and I like the way that they were the same record label that eventually just said, fuck off, we're not releasing your album. Said you can have like 18 months, go and write yourself a nice album. Take your time.
Here's some equipment as well.
Go and make the album you want to make. So they did, and then they said,
You took too long, you dropped.
nuts, isn't it? It's nice that what a great opportunity to have that though. To just be given free rein to sort of make the music you want to make. And then they got stiffed again because they moved labels and they took over the record label. He said they got a lot of, although a lot of shit stuff happened, a lot of great stuff happened, and they still enjoyed relative success. Do you know what I mean? They were a big band. Yeah, and huge in South Korea and Indonesia. Still, probably.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at like his did like an Instagram post like recently about like the reunion and stuff, and most of the comments from underneath were from like Southeast Asian countries.
Oh, really?
Basically. Like, come to Malaysia,
sort of
come to
invested.
Indonesia. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, though, isn't it?
It's really cool. Yeah. So, if you're tuning in from South Korea or Malaysia or Indonesia or Singapore or any of those countries, welcome to the podcast.
I would say in a different language, but we don't know any other languages.
Oh, I can do Japanese.
Go on, do that.
Konnichiwa.
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 No, you're just taking the piss. That's racist.
Don't put on it. You might as well have done that thing with your eyes.
You did the equivalent of that with your voice.
Let's just try it, trying to put some energy into it.
Sure. Yeah. Good racist energy.
I also thought it was quite interesting, like back then, if you get dropped from your label, that's kind of it. Because you haven't got the internet. We'll move on to the other interesting thing about the internet in a minute, but it hadn't really come about. It was just in its infancy. So if you're a band trying to make it without a label in those days, it's pretty impossible really to get any sort of traction. I think that's what you kind of said. Once you lose that, what have you got? Whereas now you can self-release stuff, but you couldn't really do that back then at all. So
yeah, which means that the record label had like total control over your life and your destiny, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, although a lot of things have changed for the worse with streaming and stuff, it does give bands without record labels a chance, which they didn't used to have, which I think is good. But then that does lead us on to the other interesting internet connection. Well, yeah, the first band to release, is that worldwide?
Yeah, I think so.
Physical release, but you could only buy it via the internet, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't in any shops. So that was back in 1998, was it?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah.
The early stage. I remember because at university, we had in our library, we had 3 computers with the internet. You had to book them out. They were super slow.
I remember I used to be on the NME were quite early kind of adopters of the internet. So I was like a total NME obsessively reading kid. So I was on NME forums. I think, again, I had to go to the computer on campus. I think like 97, 96, 97, I was on the NME forums. It was fun. My handle was David Hasselhoff, if you were on those, if you remember.
So there were 2 James Bond connections in the interview, Grace Jones and John Barry.
Right. Well,
we were going to talk about John Barry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we were going to come back to that.
Just talking about their name, right? How they got their name.
So the music became before the name, didn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were talking about the cinematic sound, and I didn't really understand that, so you were going to explain it to me.
That was a conscious part of their music, wasn't it? To make music that sounded cinematic.
Sounded kind of broad and expansive and kind of widescreen compared to, a lot of the indie rock that was around at the time.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
Well, if you listen to a song like Untouchable, it's really sort of big sounding songs. They've got a bit of orchestration in there.
Bit of drama.
Got it. But what was the John Barry connection then? Because I've noted that down, but I didn't note what it was. He was some kind of inspiration, but did they meet him?
No, but they found out after that John Barry grew up in a Rialto cinema.
Yeah, that was it.
Have we got anything else to say about Rialto?
Pick our favourites.
Favourite songs?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Untouchable. I don't care. I know it's their most famous song, and Reddit people will hate me for it, but I love that song.
It's a epic indie belter, isn't it?
Yeah, one that stood out for me was, I don't know why really, Broken Barbie Doll on that.
Oh, it's good, Broken
Yeah,
Barbie Doll. I like that one too.
I was looking at the number of listens, and that was one of the fewest.
I like that song.
Surprised.
That was one of my standout tracks too. I like Broken Barbie Doll.
Yeah.
Luke?
I really like Love Like Semtex. It's like a slow burner. It's got a kind of speaking of films, a kind of film noir kind of feel to it. I think it's really cool. Dream Another Dream I really like as well. It's got that kind of na 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 thing going on. I go for Love Like Semtex. So it's kind of the slow creepy one. He mentioned in an interview that they were going to be announcing a London show. That's been announced now. So it's for January the 26th at the Lexington in London.
Right.
And I think he said that tickets go on sale today when this comes out. So Friday, it's the 1st, it'll be 1st of December. So if you're listening, we'll put some links to the website and stuff on the show notes. And get in there, get some tickets. It's going to be great.
Their show at Shine On was brilliant. So if anyone was a Rialto fan, then they still got it. So go and watch it for sure. Go and show some support. Buy a ticket.
If you're in South Korea, get a plane ticket. Get over.
No, carbon footprint, man.
Oh yeah.
True.
It's better to get them there.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for keeping us environmental friendly on this podcast.
You're right.
Luke, you should be ashamed.
I apologise to the planet.
Go and plant some trees now.
I will.
You have to offset your carbon footprint.
But I didn't actually do it. I just kind of suggested it.
Doesn't matter.
Does that count?
The intention was there.
Yeah, it's just fewer trees you need to plant.
Okay. Can I do what like a bonsai do?
If you just thought it, yeah, but you said it.
You encouraged it, and you encouraged people.
Like full big fuck off trees.
Yeah, you put it out there that it's a good idea to get to get a plane to another country to go and watch a gig, and now people are going to do it.
I think that's okay. Okay,
This
that's
is how
fair.
it
That's fair.
starts. This is how it starts.
You're right. All right. I will.
So you better get out there and plant some of those fucking trees. If you're watching this, then please do give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Let us know your favourite Rialto songs, albums. Let us know if you've seen them live, if you're going to see them live. Yeah, anything Rialto, drop us a comment in the box below. In the comment section below. And subscribe to the channel so that we can let you know when new episodes come out. If you're listening, then please do rate, review the episode or podcast or whatever you need to do so that other people can find it. It's quite important that you do that. It really helps us out. So please do that. Luke?
Yeah, if it's your first time listening, we're starting to build up a bit of a back catalogue now. So if you like this kind of music, go back, subscribe, go back, download everything, and start making your way back through the back catalogue.
Yeah, because you're missing out. It's hilarious. There's some hilarious stuff in there, isn't there?
I think we had a laugh in episode 3, didn't we?
I remember that. That was good, wasn't it?
That was great. So if you
That
want
was
to
good.
go to that one.
Yeah, episode 3. Yeah. Don't forget, as usual, there's a mixtape. Unfortunately, only the first album is on Spotify, so I've had to limit it to that. But there's loads of other stuff that he talked about in the interview that I've managed to put on there. So it's a really good mixtape again. So yeah, have a listen to that. The link will be in the show notes. I guess that only leaves Dave. Over to you.
See you in a minute.